I love fighting games. But beyond that, what I like the most about fighting games are the character designs. When it comes to designing characters, one of my main sources of inspiration are fighting game characters. I've always enjoyed the design philosophy of these types of characters, and because of that, I think it suits their medium the best. For example, when you look at Street Fighter, whose character designs are pretty grounded, when you put them all together, each of these characters have little quirks that differs them from each other. You can even see this with BlazBlue, where the cast is full of anime-style designs, but the same concepts still apply even to them. And because of this is why I love fighting games. This is what makes the genre my favorite. It's the character designs. Each character having their own distinct color palette, or even design elements that make them unique from each other. But enough of glazing fighting games. This is how I use fighting game characters as reference or inspiration. So let's get to it. One of my most favorite fighting game characters is Soul Bad Guy. At a first glance, he looks like he has a lot going on. The numerous belts, overly spiky hair, and small little tidbits that fill in his design. Despite all that, when we take a look at what really matters in this design, it's the readability. Soul's color palette is really well separated, with colors that don't overlap. They showcase the most important element of him, which is the color red. To me, this is the type of thing I'm always looking out for. A character with easy readability and identifying color to them. And this isn't just a Soul thing, but something you can commonly see with other characters. It honestly serves as a good way to separate them from each other. Another design that I really enjoy is Juri from Street Fighter. What are you looking at me like that for? It's not about the feet, alright? I've always enjoyed Juri's aesthetics, but the thing I always liked about her was the theming of her design. To me, I think the theme of a character's design is important, since it lets you know the general vibes or aesthetic of them. When you take a look at Juri's theming, you can see that it's in reference to being a spider. You can notice those design choices through how the buns on her head are shaped like a spider's fangs, and the cloth thing that she wears quite looks like a spider. You can even see this theming even in her previous design, as noticed with the spider on her back. So, I've talked about two things I always looked out for when looking at these characters, such as color palette and their general theme or aesthetic. But there's one thing I always look for regardless of these two things: how cool the character looks. And one character I think looks really cool is Versusia from Grand Blue Fantasy. Whoa. Before you guys destroy me in the comments, she is an original character made for the fighting game, not from the gacha game. Versusia's design has a lot of things going on in it. She has a color palette consisting of red, blue, black, and purple. And while the color choices clash with each other, it works out because they're all in the same value range, so they don't actually overpower each other at all. I also really like that she has this dragon armor like theming to her, which I find really cool. And you can see which through her tail, her four arms, and this overworldly look that she has. Now. We made it this far, but I can't just talk about all that stuff without showing some of it. By keeping in mind the things I've talked about, such as readability, theme, or even coolness factor, it's time for me to show you guys how I create a character. In the initial sketch, I focus on getting the whole form of the character drawn out first. By this point, I'm thinking to myself, hey, it would be really cool if I made this character have a big sword. I wanted to have this character have a more fierce look in her eyes since she already had a very muscular body as I drew her, and it fits with the big sword she has. I eventually decided having her with short hair since with experimentation I realized that having some sort of hair looking like Lady from Devil May Cry or even Menon from Street Fighter 6 would be pretty cool. I gave her baggy pants to contrast with the tight clothing I gave her with the torso and the arm sleeves to help with showing off her muscles. I didn't want to cover up too much to show off how strong she could look. Once I got to this point of her design, I wasn't really too sure where I wanted to go with it, but I eventually ended up settling with a prisoner-like look with her since it could be interesting to mess with. Since I already settled on the prisoner look for her, I decided to make her bangs a little longer since it really kind of pushes that whole like she doesn't really take care of herself too much type of look. When applying down the flats, I prefer to use the lasso tool instead of using a brush or anything like that, since it's a lot easier to get in the colors than just painting them in. To draw the little designs on her sleeves, I use a layer property that allows anything I draw to have a little border edge on it. I also wanted to mimic the designs you will see on winter gloves actually. But another thing you can also do with the layer property is to draw hair with it, but I don't actually showcase that with this character. For my rough shading, I use a multiply layer and use a desaturated mid-tone blue to shade. I primarily focus on showing the shapes and form of the character. And this is the final result. What do you think? For readability, I really want to keep the color palette simple, with the majority of her design showing orange to really show off that prisoner look. Because of that, it helps to push that theme with her, and I think the rugged look that she has helps to enforce that idea. The ripped pants and shackles that she has are little things that make her look like a battle-hardened prisoner who somehow broke out of prison, which I think makes her look pretty cool. I've designed a bunch of characters, and fighting games were pretty much the main inspiration for most of them. While some were inspired from other franchises outside of that genre, such as games like Zenless Zone Zero, Arknights, and Final Fantasy, the main core design ideology came from fighting game characters. And that's pretty much all I have to say. Thanks for watching the video, and see ya. Whoa, you guys are still here? Anyways, for the small group of you guys who think I don't play fighting games, watch this final round between me and my friend.